Nick and I met a long time ago in prison. And yeah, we were both locked up for being naughty kids. No, we weren't really. I'd gone on a training course from the IOD, and it was in Askham Grange prison. And Nick was the speaker, and he was talking about sales. And I just sat there, I thought, I really like this guy. He's down to earth. What you see is what you get. And he's talking some really good stuff. So I actually then booked him to come and do work with my guys. And you probably see Rachel's here, Rachel, my partner in crime, and Stuart. And Rachel had been in recruitment for years. So I got Nick in to do some sales training. And she's a bit like, teaching to suck eggs. And she got, once Nick started working with her, she actually said, I'll let you unmute yourself, Rachel, and say what your comment was.
Said he was the best and least annoying sales trainer that I'd ever come across.
It's now on my business card. Now on my business card is my strap line, the least annoying sales trainer, according to Rachel Peaks.
It's a fact.
Oh, well, there you go. But I thought it was brilliant. And I just wanted to be able to offer people a little bit of magic dust, because that's what I think you are, Nick. I think you're magic. So I'm going to hand over to you to do your little bit of magic for the morning.
No pressure. I'm going to mute you all just for the background noise of dogs and offices and kids and homeschooling. But I will invite you to unmute when I want your contributions, which I will do through the session. Okay. So mute. So let's talk about what we're here for. This session is entitled Business Development in a Global Pandemic. And I just want to set some sort of background to it, really. This came about because the world changed as we know it in March 2020. The reality is your sales opportunities changed from March 2020, but they were changing before that anyway. I think there's a lot of people who do what I call traditional sales were already on a downward spiral to struggling to meet the new requirements to generate leads and inquiries and opportunities, etc., etc. And the reason for that, we don't hold all the aces anymore as salespeople. In the old days, going back, and I've been around a long time, and I know a few of you historically, you, in return for somebody giving you a payment, you would share knowledge and you would share product and you would share details. That's no longer an option because your customers are well versed in terms of research. The tools are available to find out what they want to find out. They're already 2/3 down their decision-making process before they even engage with you as a sales professional. So that was changing as a result of, Google and, people producing content for social media and that kind of thing. And the reality now is I want to talk about what I call push-pull selling, okay? Pushing relevance and content and things out there that make you stand out from the competition, so that pulls in opportunities and inquiries and conversations and that kind of thing. We're going to talk about that and how we do that. And if I say to you that about 60% of my business comes from LinkedIn and another 20% comes from client referrals, the question is, am I doing something to engage that? Yes, I am, but I'm not spending all my life on social media. I'm doing things in a strategic way. It's all about becoming what we call a thought leader, a person of relevance or interest in their sector. So I think you've got to be realistic. I'm a sales training professional. I do lots of other things around sales and consultancy and stuff like that. I don't expect to be the #1 sales training professional in the world because there's billions of people who do what I do. What I'd like to be is one of the people of influence within my circle of influence, which includes 6,500 connections on LinkedIn. It includes people who are clients and former clients referring and recommending. And I want to be a go-to guy because they trust and like and, value what I do. But I've got to have a strategy for that. So how many of you on this call now, by way of putting your hands up, or if you want to put the reactions button up, it's up to you, think you've got an opportunity to step above your competition and be, the person of relevance and interest, the go-to business, the expert, the on a pedestal, top of your game, opportunity to blow the competition out of the water. How many of you got that potential opportunity? Laurie Abercrombie, I'm going to go to Laurie, then I'm going to go to Deborah Hawkshaw, okay? And then I'll go to Vicky. That'll be it, because I'll go. So Laurie, tell us about Arcanum. Why can you be and why can you be better than the competition and the go-to guy for what you do?
We're a cybersecurity company, a consultancy. The National Cybersecurity Centre in the UK's national tech experts, recognises 24 companies as being the best in the country. Mm-hmm. We're one of them.
That's a big country, and that's a low number, isn't it? So that's good. Yeah. That's a really good opportunity. Okay, you've got to have a strategy to access that and make sure that you're taking advantage of that. But that's brilliant. Okay, because you've got credibility through third-party referenceability. That's fine. Deborah Hawkshaw, what I can't see. It says bathroom. I'm sure it must be something to do with bathrooms. It runs out with a bathroom double.
Yeah. I supply and design bathrooms. So my niche in the market is I don't have a showroom. I visit people in their homes. So the people that would normally buy from the internet, they now have a person to deal with who can recommend products because of my history in the industry.
Okay. The reality of that, Deborah, is that's a bit like anyone who knows the travel counsellors model for travel agencies. They're independent travel counsellors with lots of experience, and they do the same thing in travel. So instead of doing it yourself and worrying and whatever, they bring their expertise to the table as a consultant. That works really well. So absolutely, Deborah, no problem. I might introduce you to one of my clients. I don't know if that's a competition or it's an opportunity. UK Bathrooms, big online retailer, doing really well in the. If you need that, stay on. We'll have a chat. If it's competition, we'll walk away from it. Vicky Fort, it says dash training 20. I don't know what the rest of it is. So. Yeah. Tell us about why can you be niche and expert and thought leader and better and whatever.
Yeah, so I work for a company called Training 2000, and we basically specialise in the delivery of apprenticeship programmes and commercial training. And for us, it's quite difficult to kind of have a USP because there are so many other training providers nationwide. Yeah. Our USP really is the fact that we are part of the University of Central Lancashire. So we are obviously part of the university, meaning that we can then offer that seamless sort of progression for apprentices from a level 2 all the way to a degree level at a fraction of the cost, really.
Excellent. So what you've got to do then, so I like that all three of you, really good backdrop stories to that. The key to this is you've got to have an active content strategy to push out content that draws people in. So for example, if I post something, I'll post something regularly that might say, here's top 10 tips on how to network online. He's 5 things you should be doing when you're meeting a client on Zoom or whatever it might be. And I'm pushing that content out and I'm watching for responses. I'm watching for people who I don't know or I do know I want to re-engage with. One of my clients I wanted to re-engage with have been really busy last year because they flipped into supplying PPE to the NHS, couldn't have a call with them at all. They were just like bombed out down in South Wales. Reacted to a post I put out last week, and we've now re-engaged in terms of what 2021 looks like for them. That's what it's about, is being the person or the business of interest and having a content policy. But I'm going to share with you 12 top tips, okay? Now, 12 top tips are all about maximizing your performance through the sales cycle. So what I'm going to say to you is, I apologize if you're B2C, but the transition works just as well. You just got to think slightly laterally. This is much more B2B, but the reality is, in terms of B2C, some of the principles are very transferable. So what I want to talk about is the sales funnel looks pretty similar. That's a very shortened sales funnel. Raise awareness, interact with the customer, get the level of interest, take some action. Now, we all know a sales funnel's probably got 7 or 8 steps, but this is just a shortened version. So what I'm going to start with, the first question I want you to ask yourself is, and this is kind of where the workshop came from, is my sales preference still an option? One of my clients, a new client in June last year, when we released lockdown and we started to get, we could go out and see people and things, I met this guy and he ran an engineering business, and I said to him, how do you get your leads? And he went, we do 2 big exhibitions a year, one in Germany and one in the UAE. And I went, how's that working out for you then? And the answer was, well, it isn't. So you got to think about what your traditional routes to market are: exhibitions, networking, old school, sales repping, key account visits, customer site visits, people coming to you, you going to them. I think the lady you mentioned there in terms of the bathrooms, I haven't got you on the screen at the moment, so I can't remember your name. You going to see people, there's some challenges with that because social distancing and lockdowns, etc. But even direct dial calls are a challenge now, because if you had the skills to get past a gatekeeper, you could ring a big company and talk to the operations director, or you could talk to the head of HR. You could talk to, these people work from home now. So you ring the company, they'll answer the phone. Can I speak to Sheila Jones, your head of operations? I'm afraid she's working from home. No problem. Could you put me through? Oh no, our phone system doesn't do that. Could I take her phone number? Absolutely not. We don't give those out. Right. Could you send an email? Where to? blackhole@couldn'tcareless.co.uk, which is basically info or sales or whatever at. So you even lost the opportunity to engage people on a direct dial. So you've got to think about, first of all, what was I doing before, and is it still going to work for me? The chances are something's going to be closed off, changed, or completely, different. So the next thing you got to think about is, so I've got to work out what platform is going to get me access to my potential customers, my existing customers, my key accounts, and new customers as well. So, Zoom, don't Zoom. I put, there's all sorts of ways you can do texting, you can do Zooms, you can do Teams, you can pick up the phone if you can send e-shots, you can send emails. All the traditional routes are there. The problem is you're not really getting engagement. Sending an email, if it's an existing account, you'll get a response. Sending an email to a cold target, response rates are terrible. But the other thing I say to my clients is, how many of you have put a WhatsApp group together for your existing customers so that you can communicate with your existing customers through WhatsApp? WhatsApp is almost instant. At the end of this session, you'll all have some WhatsApp messages, some text messages, some emails, and it'll come up on your phone. And I guarantee the first one you go to is WhatsApp. So think about communicating differently with your customers, simply because WhatsApp will get the response. And you can also share information in WhatsApp that they might not see on LinkedIn, they might not respond to on an email. And as long as you've got their permission to put them in the WhatsApp group because you want to keep in contact with them, this is more for existing customers, then you're going to get really a good level of success and engagement. So, think about doing things slightly differently around the edges of what you've traditionally done. But let's start with prospecting. Okay, so prospecting. Start with who you know. And the first thing I do when I talk to anybody is I'll say, right, okay, when was the last time you exported your LinkedIn connections? So I'm going to look around the room. Who's on LinkedIn, by the way? Who's active on LinkedIn? Put your hands if you're active on LinkedIn. Warwick put his hand up, then he's put his hand down. I said, who's on LinkedIn? He put his hand up. I said, who's active on LinkedIn? Warwick put his hand down. So I apologize. Who else put the hand up? Who's active on LinkedIn? Put your hands up. Mike Roberts. We'll go to Mike Roberts. We'll go to Amy Mortimer. And then Wendy Newbury, in that order. Remind me, because I've got a memory like I said. Mike Roberts, how many connections have you got on LinkedIn?
900 odd, might have broken 1,000.
Okay, now that's okay, but from a growing your sort of profile, that needs to be 4 times that over a period of time. Not now, but you need to work on looking at the numbers. 900 will get you okay, but it won't get you necessarily. Okay, thanks, Laurie. Cybersecurity perspective, WhatsApp's pretty poor. Signal is far. Okay, right. Well, we'll go with that. That's fine. I'll change my recommendations, Laurie, on that. Thank you very much. So Mike's got 900 connections. Do you know everybody in those connections, Mike?
I will have made contact with a lot of them at some point. And
that wasn't the question. The question was no, you don't. And the more you get, the less you know. That's absolutely fine. I said I'd go to, thank you for that, Mike. Amy I went to, didn't I? I said Amy, then I said Wendy. Amy, how many of you got connections-wise?
Only about 800 in my case.
Okay, doesn't matter whether it's only 800, only 900. It's a starting point for that. It's a question, do you know those 800 people?
Some of them better than others, but I wouldn't say I know all of them, no.
Okay, that's fine. And that's where you get to. I bet you did when you had 25 and 30 and 50 and 60. You get to 800, you don't. Thank you. Wendy, how many of you got connections-wise? Wendy Newbury? Just as I come to you, you've frozen. Let's go one more. Who else put their hand up to saying active on LinkedIn? Anybody else? Megan Harker. Thanks, Megan.
I feel a bit embarrassed now. I've only got 181.
That's okay.
But I'm very new to it. It's something I just started in my current role, and it's going well so far.
Okay. It's a route to market. What I don't want you to think about is it's the only show in town. It isn't. But you know, what I'd encourage you to do is, I've got 6,500 connections. I had no clue who most of them are. I had a strategy in the early days, only connect with people who I liked and knew and trusted and worked with. Now it's just like anybody and everybody, because those 6,500 know 6 squillion other people. But what I'd do is I'd export my LinkedIn connections. And when I export them, what I do then is I put them into job title order. And the reason I do that is I've got very different key messages for different job titles, stakeholders and peer groups. So in my 6,500, I might have 160 CEOs. I might have, 200 learning and development managers. I might have heads of, whatever it might be, sales directors. I'm going to create little active campaigns that are focused on what their world looks like. So my message to a CEO is probably very different, who's trying to balance all the challenges of COVID, with a sales director who's trying to balance the exact challenges of a sales function and salespeople. So I'm going to create content that's aimed at those individual groups. So it starts with exporting the connections in the first place and seeing who you're connected to, because you'll be surprised. I'm connected to the head of global something operations for Coca-Cola in Atlanta. No idea. Where did she come from? No idea. But if I want to get into Coca-Cola in Atlanta, I've got a door open. Not that I want to get into Coca-Cola Atlanta, you're not allowed to travel anymore. But when I'm allowed to travel, she might go to top of my list. I might fancy a trip to Atlanta, and I'll do a campaign towards engaging her. So the first priority is always start with what you know when you're looking at quick and easy wins. And that includes former customers, former clients. I say to people now, we're a year in almost into the pandemic, forget what you know, forget what you thought. And I'll give you an example. One of my clients said, oh, we can't work with them. They've got a procurement lady. She's an absolute dragon. I said, she's still there? Well, I don't know. Well, what if she's not there anymore? What if she was the blocker? What if she was the person who was the blocker and she's not there anymore? She's on furlough, she's been made redundant, whatever it might be. So don't prejudge what you may or may not get from people that you've got poor results for in the past. Things have changed. They've changed for you. They've changed for them. The fact that you're still going is impressive. What if they chose someone instead of you that no longer exists? What are they doing about your provision? What about your service providing? So don't worry about what you thought you knew, or she was a dragon, they were difficult, we fell out with them. Everything's changed. So go back to basics and say, let's start with who we should be doing business with, and let's go back to that. The next thing is for those who are growing their LinkedIn connections, give them a reason to connect. And what I mean by this is always put a URL in your LinkedIn connection request. This is a slightly older one. I was doing some work with a client. My client's called PDM, and basically they designed one of the UK's first face shields that was reusable. It was CE marked, etc., etc. When sports grounds came back out of lockdown quickly, we identified that the marshals and the staff would have to wear face shields. So we had a little bit of a campaign. And this was a connection request that I sent out. It doesn't happen, it just happens to be I'm a massive Borough fan, and this guy happened to work at Middlesbrough, but it's the same principle. So I put in there something reasonable. As a massive Borough fan, part of the work I'm doing PDM International, as you plan to return to stadiums, I want to connect and bring this to your attention to protect your players and staff and stewards' PPE. Now that on its own means probably the square root of bugger all, really. But I put a link in there into the connection request, which took them straight to the face shield page, the case study page, with an NHS worker saying, thank you, PDM, with all the details of the face shields. If this guy clicks on it and then decides to accept my connection, he's 2/3 of the way to saying, I'm really interested in what you've got to offer. So what I want all of you to think about is, I want you to think about it now, is where's the best version of you? Where would you take someone in a LinkedIn connection request? Because you've only got a couple of paragraphs, so you might as well use one of them with a URL. Where's the best version of you? And it might change, depends on the target. So if I'm talking to salespeople, I might take into my sales training page. If I'm talking to someone about strategy, I'll take into my strategy page. But it's my choice. But I always put in there, there's a reason to connect with me. Have a look at the best version of me on here. So who wants to share with me your best version of you where do you think the best version of you would be to get people to go, oh, wow, that's better than just a paragraph. That's interesting, either visually or academically or credibility. Where's the best version of you? Anyone? So none of you got a best version. Brilliant. It's going well so far, isn't it? There's no Nick Sands. Where's the best version of you? Unmute for me, Nick.
I think I'd go to point them to a testimonial page.
Repeat, because yours is a service business. You're a fabulous guy, provide a brilliant service. So you want people to go, oh, loads of people are saying good things about this Nick Sands guy. At least, the very least I'm going to do is explore that. That's a brilliant landing page, Nick. That's exactly where you should take them. Okay, yeah. Your testimonials page, credibility. Who's got Vicky Fort? You're nodding. Okay, I don't know why you're nodding. I'm going to pick on you. If I'm looking for a volunteer, by the way, if you nod or move, it's like being in a car auction. You just bought a Vauxhall Astra there, Vicky. But let's give it a go. Unmute for me. You're already unmuted, I think. So where's the best version of Vicky Fort or Training 2000?
It's probably the same as Nick, really. Our website on testimonials page, case studies.
Right. Okay, well, they might be separate. And bear in mind, what I want you to all look at is look at your website and look at where your landing points are. Which are the ones that would resonate the most? Because that's the bit that's going to get people to go, actually, quite like that. Let's accept the connection request. When they accepted the connection request, your assumption should be they've looked at what you sent them. That's already much warmer, isn't it, as a conversation than it would be from just cold, do you fancy connecting? Some of the stuff I get the default ones where people don't even care. They're not even bothered. You think to yourself, why would I bother if you can't be bothered? I'd like to connect on LinkedIn, which is the default. Why would I accept that? This gives them a reason to do so. So be thinking about that. I'm going to share very quickly because I did a session the other night and this came out as like, oh, wow, kind of moments. And I call it networking. Someone's raised it. I'll come back to questions at the end and things. I don't manage chat very well within the session because I'm just rubbish. Really, I'm old and useless. So basically, in terms of networking, I say it still works just about. So I'm going to share with you a few quick networking tips, and I'm going to share them quickly because if you want to go networking, you've got to make it work for you. Okay. So the first thing is have a strategy. So same as you would do for physical networking, what time of day is it? Does it fit in with me? Am I going to be able to give it the right approach? Who's going to be in the room? Who's going to be on the Zoom call? That kind of thing. Who, what, why, where, when, how. What you also want to do is make sure you're networking with an experienced host and a decent platform. Zoom does not work for networking. The reason is I'm talking to Nick. Nobody else can listen. Nobody else can have a conversation because it doesn't have that. I mean, you can put you in breakout rooms, but you need somebody to say, what's the platform? What are we working? Does it have breakout? Does it have little side rooms? Can I have a one-to-one with somebody? Can we move tables? Because the reality is if you can't do that, how many times would you go to a networking room with 50 people and listen to Nick and I talk? Just the two, everybody else stands around silently. You wouldn't. So the platform's really important. You want a bit of flexibility. I'll come back to that in a second. I sat through a networking event a while ago because I was doing some research. There was 28 people in the room and they all got 2 minutes to present their business. There's an hour I'll never get back. And they were all the same. My name is Trevor. I'm an accountant. We're based in Horsforth. We've been going since 1997. Like, right, okay. So thank you, Trevor. And let's move on to Sheila, who's going to say she's an interior designer. It was terrible. And you just sat listening to the same old stuff. So you want to take control and be a bit more flexible. So I say, turn up, turn on and engage. I did some work with York University students on networking. And they were all down with just the names and no pictures and no video. So I started the session. I thought I'll come back to that. And I said, right, okay, how many of you go networking? And little hands came up on the reactions button and stuff. I said, okay, how many of you have been networking in a room with a bag on your head? And they're like, I said, put your bloody cameras on. Because no one networks without a camera. And I know you've got problems potentially with internet and broadband, but you can make allowances for that or say to somebody, I'm struggling, but don't just turn up and just, sit there and observe. Networking is not it's not an observation sport, it's a participation sport. Wear something that stands out, some Zoom clothes or a background. So I'll stop the share. I'll tell you my favorites are on this screen. I like Andy Gillett or Gillett or Gillet or Andy Gillet. I don't know how you pronounce your name, Andy. I like it though. I like Candid, Emma Harvey. I like, where have we got? Where's the other backdrops have gone? They've all gone somewhere. There was somewhere you'll move around, don't you? Yeah, Lisa Lloyd just put her background on now just to get some brownie points. You cheating bugger, Lisa. So that's fine, because on a Zoom screen like this, you've got to stand out. I like Janet because she's wearing red. Well done, Janet. You stand out on a screen full of greys and blues, so that's good. So think about what you look like on a networking screen, because the reality is you've got to stand out on some level. The next thing is change your name to include your company name on your little tag. So mine says Nick IMPACTUS Group. So many people call themselves the name of the phone, or they just put, you know, Sheila, or they'll just put whatever it might be. I did a networking training session the other day, and people just had the name on. And when I asked them to change it to the company name, there was 3 people from the same organization on the call. I didn't know that until they changed the name. It became a conversation piece. So make sure you got your first, and just put your first name on. No one, it's 2 names is 2 names to forget. Nick IMPACTUS Group will do the job. You don't need Nick Bramley IMPACTUS Group, because it won't even show on the full name. Use chat and encourage others and capture it. What I mean by that is, if you go into a networking environment, I always say to people, right, is this one of those where we all share our contact details? And the host will say, oh, yeah, absolutely. So all I do is I put my LinkedIn URL in chat, and I'll encourage other people to do that. And at the end of the session, what I'll do is I'll Control and A to capture it all, Control and C to copy it all, and Control and V and paste it into a Word document. So basically, on that basis, all I'm doing is I'm saying, I know who was in that room, who was prepared to share their details. That's what networking's about. So don't forget. So now everyone's doing it. Look at that, Laurie, straight in like Flynn there, Laurie, if you're old enough to remember in like Flynn. But so yeah, just make sure that you're giving yourself an opportunity to follow up and be followed up. And then the last thing is, make sure you've got a shared screen, because you want to stand out from the crowd. So there's 28 people on this networking skills, on this networking workshop. It wasn't even a networking group. I sat through people going, my name's Trevor, my name's Sheila, whatever it might be. And all I did, I had a shared screen of 1 picture, and I did a presentation using 1 picture. I was the only person who used a shared screen, the only person who used a visual. 27 people said to me afterwards, wish I'd done that. So, well, what stopped you? I never thought of it. So make sure you ask the host, can I have a screen? If I'm doing a 1 minute, 2 minute presentation, can I have a screen? Because a picture paints 1,000 words, doesn't it? Why wouldn't you use that opportunity at networking? Why would you be the same as everybody else? And I was the only one that was stood out, apparently, that was memorable, because I had a visual. I also sent the visual, which I'll show you shortly, as a follow-up. So networking can be done. We need to do it quite we need to do it well. It needs to work for us. But in reality, I'm not a massive fan. I've not come across many decent, experienced hosts and many decent platforms, but they are out there. So check the host and check the platform and check what you let yourself in for. Don't sit through 28 people telling you they're based in Horsforth and they've been there since 1997. Okay. So the next thing is, when you're prospecting, what about using the Zoom skills? Nobody used Zoom till March last year. I wanted shares in Zoom after, but it's too late, isn't it? If you had shares in Zoom in January 2020, you'd be absolutely loaded, wouldn't you? But Zoom is now the default, or Teams. It doesn't really matter what your favorite platform is. But what about when you're prospecting, recording a personal video message to the people that you're trying to attract? So going back to my LinkedIn export, I've got a sales director for a company I'd like to work with. I can send them a LinkedIn message, chance of success, whatever. I can send them an email, chance of success, whatever. I can record a 1 minute, 45 seconds or 45 seconds, 30-second video and say to them, hi, Trevor, Nick from IMPACTUS Group. The reason I'm reaching out to you is I've put together some really, really valuable content for salespeople. I've embedded that into the email below. If you have a look at it and see if it's relevant for you, let's talk. If it's not, well, I appreciate your time. We are connected on LinkedIn, so I thought I'd just make sure that we can at least explore the relationship. Something short, sharp, whatever it might be. There's two platforms. One is called Boom Boom, which sounds like it's a dodgy website, by the way. If you search for Boom Boom, you've got to be careful in a room on your own, because if it comes up with the wrong website, you're going to have to make some excuses to your other half. There's Boom Boom, and there's I'll come back to you on the other one. I'm just at a mental block. I'll come back to you before the end on that. It will come to me. And basically, they're just little video captures that you can embed in your email, and they go out. And basically, the increased level of those in terms of engagement is massive. And people, it just means open a Zoom call, look at the screen, record yourself. You know what? What's the worst that can happen? You're going to be terrible. It's 30 seconds. Do it again. Just have another go. You know, no one's judging you on production values anymore. No one's saying, oh, look at that, the lighting's a bit off. Oh, I can't believe the sound wasn't quite, you know, you're not trying to be Cecil B. DeMille for anyone who's old enough, or Steven Spielberg. You're basically saying, I'm just going to record a video and just give them a message. And I've done that, and the take-up rate's been fantastic. It's going to do my head in for what the name of that other product is. But you know, that's all you can think about. So think about recording a personal video message using Zoom. Just record yourself, you on screen, dead easy. So a bit of homework. I want you to think about what would be a 1-minute script that you would create for your audience. Think about your audience. Think about what challenges they've got. Think about what resonates with them, and think about what you would say to them in a 1 minute. And 1 minute's the absolute maximum. Ideally 30 seconds, 45 maybe. But what would you say? Because if you then get a fantastic sort of lively, bubbly video presentation, the chances of success, the chance of someone responding to that are increased significantly when it comes to your prospecting. So think about that. So the next thing is, again, using the technology that we've come to love, or not, we've come to use anyway, Zoom and Teams. I would say that's exactly the same to hold your chemistry meetings on. So in the past, we've made a phone call, or we've got in the car and driven to Bristol, and we've thought, let's go and see about, you know, how are we going to work together? So I'll give you an example. One of my clients in Cardiff, we did, well before lockdown and the pandemic, we did a number of phone calls to assess what they were looking for, whether I was the right fit and all that kind of thing. And I got the job, and I was working with them, you know, quite significantly, but it was nowhere near the same as it would have been using Teams or Zooms. So basically, what I mean by being assertive is, don't ask permission. Tell people it's how you work. And this is one of the things I want my sales people I work with to be stronger with, is telling people what your process is. So what I mean by that is, let's say, Jane, you've got a potential new client for recruitment for you or Rachel, okay? If you said to somebody, can we set up a Zoom call to explore your requirements? You're asking permission. Whereas if you say, how we work at Fortem is, we've identified we could potentially work with you, which is great. The next step is that we set up a Zoom or a Teams call. It's not a question of can we, it's a question of, is it just Tuesday or Wednesday next week? It's how we work. And what you do then is you control the assertiveness. Assertiveness means win-win, just means you're happy that you got what you want out of it, i.e. a Zoom call. They'll be happy with a Zoom call anyway. They would normally invite you in, so why wouldn't you just do it on Zoom? But don't ask permission. Say, this is how we work. The next stage is we'll set up a Zoom call or a Teams call, whichever your preference is, and we'll get that booked in for Tuesday. And don't, can you send me something? It's not really how we work. The reason we do it is because we're there to answer questions, see if the chemistry is right. It's just what we do. So don't become embroiled in can we, shall we, is it okay? Get embroiled in, is it Tuesday at 2 or Wednesday at 4? You know, that's all you're looking for. And because we're all comfortable with Zoom, you get very little pushback now. I mean, a lot of people have Zoomed out, don't get me wrong. And I posted something on LinkedIn, just a bit of fun about 6 weeks ago. It was a Friday, and I'd just been on back to back to back. And I posted a little post. It had a picture of a cushion. It said, Dad's arse here. And I posted, is Zoom arse an actual syndrome? I got like 6,000 people. It was, I posted a Friday night at 4 o'clock or something. I got 6,000 people saying it's a thing, it's a real thing. So people do get zoomed out, but make sure you know there's a valid reason why they should be sitting on a Zoom call on chemistry meetings with you. Okay. So the next thing is I'm going to talk about making your pitch compelling. So before I do that, I'm going to ask someone on the call who thinks they've got a really good pitch for their business in a lockdown. Who's got a really good pitch? Anyone? You're all bricking yourselves now in case I pick on you, aren't you? I'm loving the absolute level of sitting on your hands, don't move, don't smile, don't nod. Come on, someone must have a good pitch for their business. You've all been, no, look at that, right? Okay. Anyone got a good pitch for their business? You lying set of buggers. Honestly, look at you all. Oh, Mark from Sigma. Look at, we're in the presence of greatness, ladies and gentlemen. A man's put his hand up and volunteered, and then he's moved. Where's he gone? Where's he bloody gone? Mark, where are you? Oh, right in the middle. Thank you, Mark. So tell me, how do you pitch? I don't want you pitch it. You can do it if you want. How do you pitch to me in a lockdown? I'm a customer, potential customer. What are you gonna send me? What are you gonna do to me to make me want to work with Sigmat? Tell me about
the key point, Nick, what we're doing at the minute. I work for an off-site manufacturer in construction, and obviously main concerns on site and general at the minute throughout the UK is obviously the COVID, and obviously social distancing. And the key pitch for us at the minute is principally we design, manufacture off-site, and we can take the building to site and erect it with minimal social distancing requirements, and obviously that reduces health and safety risk on site. So for us, we're trying to flip it into some sort of benefit, to be honest. Now,
well, I like the principle of that. I work with SES, Shepherd Engineers, so they've got a thing called Prism. So they build plant rooms off-site and then deliver them on, and it's the same principle as that, yeah?
So we're seeing a real sort of take up, Nick. We were, to be fair, before COVID, the off-site technology was sort of ramping up, but this is taking it to the next step, the next level, Nick.
Yeah, they reckon, don't they, that we've advanced digital capability like 5 years in less than 6 months, and other things as well, I suppose, because you have to. Absolutely. I love what you said there, Mark. You flipped it to a benefit. How do you present that to me as a potential client? And what do you send me a proposal? Do you send me
a mixture of, Nick? We've got live sites at the minute, so again, I would send you the live camcorders. So the live cameras, so again, you can zip into that 24/7 and actually see us progress through the site.
Excellent.
We've obviously got case studies we can send across to you, and obviously good reference points and good brochures and data. But also, Nick, the key point, like you said, is Teams and actual. If you can't do visual meetings, obviously do it remotely.
Well, let's look at that. I'm loving what you've said so far. The one thing I really like in construction, by the way, have you got any time-lapse photography? I love a bit of time-lapse photography. You know, I saw the Chinese build a tower block in 10 weeks on time-lapse, like little ants flying. These things are fabulous to watch. You know, think time-lapse is visually very appealing. Warwick's nodding, likes a bit of time-lapse, don't you, Warwick, as well? Yeah, a bit of time-lapse, okay.
The other thing, Nick, we do is a lot of the drone cameras now as well on the site.
So you get again, the 360 visual and all that, yeah.
And again, flick that onto your LinkedIn or your network. It does bring a good reaction.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about making your pitch compelling, because we've got the capability now, a bit like networking, sharing screens, great visuals, simple decals. Okay. So you could have infographics, video, animation. That one on the left was my 1 minute presentation, 2 minute presentation at the networking workshop. We provide accessible, inspiring content, expertly hosted and delivered. We create, we deliver, we inspire, we evaluate, and there's the products that we offer on the outside. So it's that kind of principle. What I'd say to you is, you pitch now, I'm afraid that Word just doesn't do it, okay? Word and PDFs just don't cut the mustard, because you've got the opportunity to present your pitch, okay? So remember the impact of why people buy from you. I'm going to show you a short video. People can find the features of your business. They can find how long you've been going. They can find where you're based. They can find other products that you've worked on and other clients. So we've got to really think about the impact be. I'm going to show you a short 3-minute video, gives you the principle of the impact of why people buy. Okay, so bear with me while I flick through this. Bear with me.
Is your baby ugly?
Wow.
Wow, that's quite a question, isn't it? It's a question I often feel like I'm asking when I work with the businesses I work with, when I particularly try to understand why they exist and what makes them different. So I will work with an organization, I'll go in to see them, I'll say, tell me about your business. Invariably, they will come up with the same old story that everybody else comes up with. They'll say, we make this product, we are great at this service, we are fantastically knowledgeable, we are capable, technically gifted, we know what we're doing, we've been around since 1997, etc., etc. And what I say is, nobody cares. So that's like me going to an organization where the business owners have invested life, time, money, energy, blood, sweat and tears and saying, nobody cares. So am I saying that your baby's ugly? I guess to some extent I am. The reality is they're getting it wrong because they're not focusing on the impact of what they do so much as the service or product that they provide. I just want to inspire you with a little thought process. People don't buy what you do, they buy why they should buy from you. Let me give you an example. My business, IMPACTUS Group, does 3 things that no one cares about, including me. We do training, coaching and consultancy, and I'm bored telling you and you're bored listening. The reality is we are all about inspiring performance excellence in teams, individuals and in businesses. And I always start with that. When someone says to me, tell me about your business, I always start with the impact statement, the why. We inspire people to performance excellence, individually, teams, and across the business. The next natural question is, how do you do that? And that is where you talk about the process by which you deliver your impact. So in my case, it's a 4-stage process: people, process, profile, and profit. The people side is assessing their skill sets, their capability to learn, to be upskilled, those kind of areas. The process is looking to see if the business is fit for growth, ready for growth, or whether growth will create any challenges or problems. The profile is looking to say, does this business stand out in terms of the language it chooses, the position it takes, and how they communicate their unique selling points and brand in the marketplace? And the 4th one, profitability, is the end game I'm looking to achieve for that client. In reality, doing that through providing sales, leadership, management, or business development, coaching, training, or consultancy is just the end game. Start with the why, lead to the how, finish with the what you do. Never ever start with introducing yourself as, my name is Trevor, we are an accountancy practice, because people don't care. What is the impact of your accountancy practice? What is the impact of your product? What is the impact of your business for the customers that choose to buy your products? Why, how, what? Hopefully that's useful for you. Try it, refine it, learn it, use it.
Okay, so that's a very simple way of looking at pitching, but it's and a bit like Mark said there. I love what Mark said about the fact that we think about the impact is working safely, keeping your team well, managing your social distancing, compliance with, you know, health and safety and all that kind of thing. That's part of the why process. How you do it is we manufacture off site to specified design and whatever it might be. We just happen, the outside circle on my bit is the what is it? It's off-site manufacturing for the construction industry. If you start with the first bit, it's much more powerful, much more compelling. And what I'm going to say to you about in a COVID world is you can, then convert this into a really compelling proposal. So, as I said earlier, Microsoft Word doesn't cut it anymore. Think about creating proposals in whether you do it in PowerPoint and then convert to PDF to send out later, whether you do them in things like what's the other one called? I've got a mental block. There's another one that's out there which Prezi, Prezi. What I'm saying to you is, you should be able to create presentations now because you're going to present them. You're not going to send them. And what I mean by that is, this is one from one of my clients, Floki Health. Okay, they've got a really compelling proposition, but embedded in there's a little animation. Embedded in there is a little tool that shows people how the technology works, and it's all part of the presentation process. But they never, ever, because I've told them not to, send the proposal. They pitch their proposal on Zoom or Teams, and they never send it to present it. What I mean by that is, they'll say to somebody, a bit like I said earlier, thanks for the opportunity to put a proposal together. I'm looking for the slot to present it to you. Can you just send it? No, we don't. That's not how we work. We present it to you on Zoom so we can handle your questions and inquiries and the reaction to that. So we're available to answer any questions. So we present proposals. And what we do with that when we're pitching your proposal is, it's all about control. So if I said to you, you might create a fabulous looking proposal that's graphically quite pleasing, but then you send it as a PDF. What's the first thing when you're not controlling it that someone's going to look at? What's the first thing you're going to look at? Deborah?
The price.
You're going to look at the price. You're going to skim through your PDF. You're going to look at the price. That becomes the only game in town. That becomes your justification piece for saying, how much? A, that means you might not even get them to take your call. And B, they don't associate value with that price because you've not controlled the delivery of that price. So because we are doing Zoom and Teams so well these days, and we know how to do it, you pitch using one of these two mediums, okay? So basically, what you're doing is, you get to the stage where it comes towards the end, and you've controlled the presentation of the proposal before you've even got to what the actual investment's going to be. And I'm going to talk to you about that. I never use the word cost, ever. I use the word investment. So I let, in basic terms, boring as it sounds, I do training, coaching, consultancy. I've already said I'm bored telling you, etc. Right? Okay. I'll say to somebody said to me, can you do a bit of training? And I'll go, no. Why? Because we don't do a bit of training. We work with organizations who are looking to invest in their team. So are you looking to invest in the development of your team? Yes, we are. Let's talk about that. So all my proposals talk about investment. What's the investment in the solution? Because I talk about investment, the only conversation when it comes to the financials is about return on investment, not justification of the cost. So I never talk about, hourly rate, day rate, whatever. I talk about the investment, and I talk about the investment in your team. But I don't talk about that until I've presented the proposal. So I'm presenting the proposal saying, this is your challenge. This is the solution we've recommended. These are the reasons that we've recommended. This is the impact that you're going to get working with us. And before I get to the proposal, the bit which talks about the investment, I'll say, how's this looking so far? Yeah, it looks great. It's exactly what we're looking for. Right, brilliant. Okay. And then I say to them, let's talk about the fly in the ointment then. And let's talk about the investment, but I'm releasing that when I'm ready. Let's talk about the investment in this solution. And then I'll release the investment and they'll go, I'll go, okay. So your reaction's not great. Why is your reaction that? And they'll go, it's a bit expensive. I say, we've already established you're looking to invest in your team. We've already established that you like the proposal. You've already established the fact that it'll deliver what your requirements are. So let's talk about the impact rather than the cost. And I guarantee my conversion rates are really high. I mean, they are because I don't talk to people who are going to waste my time in the first instance. So sometimes I'm stopping people wasting my time early on, but my conversion rates are really high because I control the release of the information. If I just sent a proposal out and sent it as a PDF, however graphically pleasing it is, they're going to read the price and they go, ooh, it's expensive against what? Based on what? You already love the proposal. So get used to presenting your proposals and leaving the last thing till the end is the investment, because that might be the weakness in the chain. Okay, so a couple of other things. I'm quite confident closing, not a surprise. I think most of you would be shocked if I wasn't really. I'm quite happy to look Janet in the eye and go, Janet, are we going to do this? And I'll ask you the question. In a room, I'd reach out to Natalie with my hand out and I'd say, Natalie, we're going ahead with this. I'm quite happy to be direct. Okay. Comes from being a lad from the Northeast. And the old phrase was, if you don't ask, you don't get. And, you know, it stood me in good stead when I was growing up. But the reality is, you've got to be confident about asking for the business. So I'm going to share with you a little tip for those who are not quite that confident, or they feel like this is the confrontation bit. So I'm going to share with you a little picture, and it's basically an iron fist in a silk glove. What it means is it's really powerful, but they don't feel it coming. And all you're saying to somebody at the end of it, if you've controlled using Zoom, the release of the information, the impact of what you're going to do, the outcome that they're going to get working with you, and you've handled the investment piece, just after you've closed, done a summary. So what do you want to do now? Ask them what you want to do now. Because the chances are, if you ask somebody what they want to do now, when you've controlled the whole process, they're going to go, actually, yeah, let's go ahead. Because you've asked them the principle of doing that. And it's not confrontational. It also gives you a second bite of the cherry, because they might go, not sure. All right, so what is it you're not sure about? What do I need to clarify? What do I need to help you to understand about the proposal? You get a second bite of the cherry. For those who are not absolutely sort of brutal enough to be direct, i.e., are we going ahead or not type of thing, or you're not sure you've read the other person, this works an absolute treat, absolute treat. So my last tip is about your existing clients. Call them key accounts, house accounts, call them what you will. But again, the businesses that have thrived or at least survived during COVID are the ones who in March 2020, the first thing they did was ring their customers. Not to say, can I sell you something, but to say, are you all right? How are you doing? Are you going to be okay? And they've kept that communication going throughout that, well, 11 months now, aren't we? So they've kept that communication going. Your existing customers are of absolute value to you because they've made a conscious decision at some stage that they like you. So what I'd say there is, can you give them something extra? Can you create how-to video guides, frequently asked question video guides, Zoom review meetings, because you can't do face-to-face. So instead of doing face-to-face, why don't we replace that with Zoom review meetings? But let me explain the how-to video guides, okay? One of my clients maintains, well, they manufacture, install, and maintain automatic gates, barriers, doors, etc. And they weren't allowed on site quite a long time in March, April, May, June, etc. But what they were doing was they were creating these video guides that said, what are your top 10 daily maintenance tips for your automatic gates? Just make sure there's no leaves blocking the, make sure there's no gunk, make sure there's nothing. Just 10 tips, a little video guide, or it would show someone how to oil or grease one of the particular units to make sure it was maintained during bad or good weather. And it was just one of the engineers going out to a gate or a barrier with a video and going, this is how you do it for yourself. These are fabulous for a key account or an existing account saying, thank you for that. I'm not selling you anything. I'm just making sure you're okay, and I'm sharing something of value. So there's 12 tips there in the slide deck, which I'm going to make available for you. There's a couple of podcasts in my series that cover this in a bit more detail. There's another one where I did back in June, which was about the change of base of sales. And this is where I did one recently, reimagining sales for the new abnormal. There's links on all on the slide deck. If you're a book reader, read Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley. If you like the idea of creating content but you're not sure, have a look at Josh Gudgeon on his YouTube channel, Create Like a Pro, because Josh will show you 10 tips on how to make a video, using your smartphone. And the last thing I want to say on here is my contact details are there on LinkedIn, on my website, all that kind of stuff. And we do a thing called the Yorkshire Sales Sprint, first Monday of every month. And it's just basically search Yorkshire Sales Sprint on Eventbrite. And we've got Josh actually talking about content. And we've got a lady who's talking about having a content plan on the 1st of March, which is two weeks away. So that's my sales pitch over. I'm going to go back and say any questions. Has that given you any food for thought? Anyone give us a light bulb moment? Who's had a light bulb moment this morning? Anyone had a light bulb moment? Deborah from Bathrooms. What's your light bulb moment, Deborah?
Just not emailing all my designs and quotes and everything, actually presenting them on Zoom, because I've worked in sales for years and years, and it's all about cushioning the price. Can't do that when you just email it over.
No.
So that's fantastic. It was worth.
And I would say, by the way, Deborah, I'm assuming it's quite a visual. You know, the other thing I want you to think about using is saying, they're investing in their bathroom, they're investing in their home. So it doesn't become how much is it? It becomes how much you're prepared to invest in your home.
Absolutely.
That's a completely different dynamic, Deborah. I promise you.
Yeah. But that's fantastic. Thank you for that.
No worries. Anybody else had a light bulb or two? Sally Kennedy, what's your business and what was your light bulb, Sally?
Well, I don't have my business set up as yet. It's I'm currently a HR director for a local company,
okay.
But I'm looking at moving into sales. And the light bulb moment for me, thinking about moving into my father's business, would be what you said in your video about people don't buy, what you do, it's what you do for them. And I'm sure that's probably something that people often recognise in sales, but for me, that's a really big thing. And it's obvious, and I really liked your video. And for me, the funny, it was so impactful from the beginning, and I think you've obviously done that on purpose in terms of talking about an ugly baby, because it makes you sit and think, what the hell is this guy on about?
Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, I do that with this face. It's a bloody risk, by the way, Sally. But I can live with the comparison. But thank you for that. And what I would say to you is the slide decks. The video link is embedded in the slide deck if you want to watch that again and share that. So I've tried to make everything accessible for you. I don't know how we're going to do that, Jane, by the way. What's your normal? Have you got all the contact details of everybody who's registered? I'll send you a PDF. I'm not going to present it to you. You can have it. There's no investment on it, so I won't need to bother. I'll just send you the PDF. It's got all the links in that you might want for the podcast and for the video and stuff like that. So that's okay. Anybody else had a light bulb moment? Anybody? Andy Taylor. Yeah, Andy. What's your business?
It's actually for my wife's business. She's got a skincare business, and we sell and retail the products online. But absolutely, the WhatsApp group was kind of a bit of a light bulb moment in terms of understanding, obviously, how our customers interact with us in the times of the day that do. We see a lot of sales that come in an evening. So obviously, when people have the phone, there's also a magic thing in WhatsApp. It's called two ticks. You can see when they've read it. So we're going to be able to sharing the little video content that my wife's putting together for all the how-to tips that she does anyway. I think that's going to be brilliant.
Good stuff. Okay. Any questions from anybody? Anything you'd like to challenge me on, or say that's crap, Nick, that won't work, or whatever? And I'm okay with that. I can live with that. My favourite is when I do a thing. I'll come to Megan in a sec. My favourite's Brian Clough, who, for those who don't know, obviously famous football manager. Somebody once said to him, Brian, what happens when people disagree with you? He said, well, I'm very grown up about it. He said, we go into my office, talk for 20 minutes, at the end of which we agree I was right in the first place. So I just quite really like that sort of, but he's from the northeast like me, so pretty plain spoken. Someone put the hand up and then they moved on the screen. Megan, it was Megan, wasn't it? Sorry. What was your question or observation?
Yeah, it was just a bit of advice, really. So with LinkedIn, obviously you mentioned about posting a link which could then take you to a page for feedback from employers and students. What about posting like a picture of that feedback, so not a link, the picture? What is your recommendation on that? Is that still as useful?
The thing with LinkedIn is you've got to stop the scroll. So you've got to stop the scroll in someone's feed. So that a good visual will do that. A controversial or a hook or something will do. When I posted my dad's arse here cushion, it was just basically a white cushion which said dad's arse here. Someone's scrolling and what the hell's that? And then they interact with the content. So if it's a good visual, that's fine. But once the visual's been engaged with, the content in the article needs to keep them maintained. Short, sharp, bullet points, white space, that kind of thing. But a good visual's fine. The other thing is, for those who want to put video on LinkedIn, make sure that you do, I don't know what they call it when they put the words at the bottom, transcription. If you want to transcribe a video, it's very hard to do yourself. There's a company called rev.com. They're in America. It's about $1 a minute. It's cheap as chips, comes back really quickly, and they'll send you the transcription of your video. So on LinkedIn, most people, 95% of people don't put audio on. So if you can talk all you want, it's like talking on Zoom with your mute on. So make sure you're going to put some video on to grab their attention. Make sure it's transcribed. And rev.com, fantastic, literally 95% accuracy, even with my accent. And you can just change it when you think, oh, what was I saying now? Oh, yeah, right. And you just change that. It's probably more than 95%. I've used it a few times. It's probably 99% accurate, and even with my accent. So I think people with a strong Scottish accent have a trouble, I think, or a strong local accent, stronger than mine. But I speak quite deliberately on video. So, but you go nothing, picture, video, in that order is the hook. The video will hook more people than a picture. Picture will hook more people than nothing. Yes, Sally. Bottom left. Go with it. Go
Thank
on.
you.
Go.
I was going to add to that is that if you do a transcribe, it's really useful if you're selling internationally, because then people can put it in their own language and opt to change it into their own language. So I've done that before.
There you go. Excellent. In presence of greatness with many people this morning. Jane or Rachel, your event, any thoughts, observations?
I think the key is still, which I'm probably a massive chicken for doing, is the video. It's all about it. And we're all going to have to be brave and get on with it. I've been avoiding it all lockdown, and I've just written, have to do some kind of video.
I mean, it's not like we can't do it because you're on it now. I mean, you literally click Zoom, click new meeting, and there's only you in it, and you just think, right, I'll give it a go. And I've done loads, and you do the first one, you're thinking, even 30 seconds, that's rubbish. You know what? Just do another one. Just do another 30 seconds. You'll get better. You'll get stronger. Make sure that you don't overthink it. And if you need to, because you're not comfortable, you can. If you hook your iPhone up, you can get a transcription service on your iPhone. It's like an auto cue thing. It's called. Bear with me. It's called teleprompter. So teleprompter just runs on your iPhone. Put your iPhone above your laptop and just put teleprompter, and you're looking straight down the eye of the iPhone, which is near your webcam. It'll look great. Okay.
Right, I'll try that. Jane will tell you how terrible I was the other week when we had to make one.
That's all right. It's just because it's alien to us all. We all feel a bit self-conscious, don't we?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got a great face for radio, and I still do, Rachel. So we're okay with that.
Happen.
Okay, Jane, anything to add?
I hate Zoom. I hate all this because I'm such a people person. I just want to be in a room and read people's body languages and stuff. And I find it really, really hard, and I have done throughout the whole of lockdown. But I know we've got to adapt, and it's something that we've got to learn to do. So I'm just gonna have to keep sitting here on my big back bum.
Well, on your Zoom arse or whatever, that'd be it. Yeah.
Zoom arse.
Yeah. Hang on a second. I've got a delivery. Yeah, I'm here. It's okay. Delivery. See, that's the professionalism of running a Zoom meeting. If your dog's not humping your leg, there's someone delivering a parcel for you. So you can't, one or the other. So I'm going to stop the recording. I should have maybe stopped the recording just before I said that, maybe. So thank you for your attendance. Thanks for your input. Hopefully it was interactive enough, given that we had 50 odd people on the call. It's not always easy. So I appreciate your time on that. And I'll upload the video to a YouTube channel. I'll send the link to Rachel and Jane with the slide decks. Please feel free to view, share, do what you want with it. No problem. Excellent. Okay, thank you.